episode 7 of the Broadway Shuffle. We are here with Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler. I'm Brennan, and Red Raider Nation, you can relax a little bit and bask in the day of joy. Gentlemen, how are we doing after that North Texas game?
Man, feeling really good. That was much needed for your football program. You needed to feel good after a game. You haven't done that yet all year. We're going to jump into a lot more of the stuff that we saw about the game itself, but that was really exciting. It was a lot of fun. After the second quarter, basically, I knew the game was over, and we haven't felt that way in a good sense all year. So that was fun.
Yeah, this was
Clayton.
the first Saturday all year, really since before the bowl game, that I woke up and I wasn't angry at my college football team. It was a wonderful feeling, a unique feeling that I forgot what it felt like. So feeling good, really excited about what the future holds, and we'll talk more about the game. But really exciting win for you, and I think it bodes well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, feels good to talk after a game that we actually feel good about. And I can't remember the last time we beat a team that badly. Like Zyler said, like game being over in second quarter is usually a bad thing for us. So it felt good to be on the other side of it.
Yeah, we thought we'd get that against Abilene Christian, but it took us a couple weeks, but we at least got to see a beatdown in some proportion with us actually winning that game, which was nice. I am trying to think about the last game actually where it was just complete domination from start to finish for our football team. I mean, it wasn't last year at all. I know that for sure. So if we can pull that up, that'd be interesting to go. But yeah, man, 66-21, Red Raiders take care of business against the Mean Green. And we like to start each episode, if you're new to the Broadway Shuffle, with something we call Conrad's Kool-aid Factory. If you're a Texas Tech fan, you know all about the preseason hype when it comes to Kool-Aid and what we whip up in the offseason to get excited to go 5-7, 4-8, or in the last 2 years, at least 7-6. But the Kool-Aid usually does not last until December with this program, but we're here to change that this year. And Conrad, you like to give us a weekly update. So what was it? Was it the green apple Kool-Aid served up this weekend? And it was dished out, it feels like. I was getting texts about orders nonstop all Saturday afternoon. I mean, I think our friend Ryan Hawkins ordered 1 million units of green apple around 12:45 on Saturday afternoon. So, Conrad, where's the Kool-Aid factory after Saturday afternoon?
Well, that's a great question. I think it is important for our listeners to know that your orders of green apple will not be fulfilled because there was only a limited quantity made. And so they all sold out pretty early because we made, I think, 3 or 4 cases. It wasn't very many because we were all so down. But as of 2:31 on Saturday, we started making Sun Devil Sangria because we are all in on this football team. We looked incredible. The workers that were fired, they begged for their jobs back. So we actually got them at a lower rate than we got them before. Brennan and his team were cleaning the factory all day. And as of today, the production levels are off the charts. I mean, we can't keep going. We're working 24/7, 365. Our website actually broke earlier today because there were so many orders being placed. So the Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory is open, ready for business, and I think we're going to stay that way for the rest of the season because we finally got everything right. Now it's good for us to cash in on the Kool-Aid that we were selling all offseason. So we're ready. Sun Devil Sangria is here this week as we go out and beat Arizona State on Saturday in Lubbock.
Wow. Zyler, you said you were even giving away some Cougar juice. People went back. They said, hey, actually, I think I need some of this Kool-Aid you guys whipping up. Let me even take some of that Cougar juice. So are you buying anything after this game into the hype of the Tech Kool-Aid, or are you still holding off until further notice?
Yeah, I do have a lot of Cougar juice that I need to sell, so please get your Cougar juice before it expires. It's a limited time offer. I've seen 3 games from the Red Raiders this year, and I've seen 1 really good one and 2 pretty bad ones. I like the trajectory, though. We're on an upward trend, and as you know, that never stops. You just go up and up and up and up. It never gets worse. So I guess I like what I saw last week. I don't know that I'm all the way back in on the hype train, but I am much more excited about the rest of the season. This was not a result that I expected, and so looking forward to what the Red Raiders can offer us the rest of the season.
Yep. Clayton?
Yeah, I'll have some Kool-Aid this week for sure. I agree with Zyler. I'd try not to overreact too much, but I'll definitely indulge in some Kool-Aid. And I will say that it's much better to have the best game being our third non-conference game. Like if we had started the year with this game against UNT, then got blown out Washington State, and then beat ACU by 1, I would be extremely worried for next week.
Yep.
Yeah, and I will say regarding the Kool-Aid Factory and where we're at, even with the Cougar Juice, they did beat Washington this weekend, and so they won the Apple Cup, and that team's 3-0. And I actually read an article today about how they're a team that no one's talking about in the country that's actually might be pretty good, and so that loss might not look as bad here come the middle of October, and we're hoping that go Cougs, man. I'd love to see them do well this year and make us look a little better. So the Cougar Juice might not be as outdated as we might have thought it was, is my point. So
yep.
And let me just say this about the Kool-Aid Factory. Right now, its whereabouts are not public, but in the future we may be offering tours. If we continue this trajectory, this season continues to be what we all think it can be, especially after the off season with the upward trajectory, we may start offering tours. You may be able to get your own merch. Conrad's Kool-Aid Factory, sponsored by the Broadway Shuffle, that may be coming sooner or later. You just never know. So keep your eyes out for those things and jump on this Kool-Aid train with us.
Are we getting a food truck? Are we getting a Kool-Aid truck? Is that the next step? A tour?
We could. The possibilities are endless. We've got some investors reaching out to us too. There's big money to be made here. So if you want to invest in the Kool-Aid Factory, just text Brennan Baxter. I'll share his number at the end of the episode for the world to hear and text, and he'll get you hooked up.
I'd love that. Well, I think it might be a little worrisome if people are overreacting that much to a 66-21 win, but I will say, before we get into the game rewind, all three of you guys had that score within, I think, 10 points. Maybe Conrad, yours was 38-24. So and mine was 41-17. So it wasn't like I expected a 45-point win, but none of us were really expecting this game to get out of hand that fast and for us to dominate. So great to see across the board. Expectations exceeded, I think, for all of Red Raider Nation on Saturday. And so, yeah, let's just get right into it. 66-21 Texas Tech. What were some initial thoughts y'all had? Anything in particular stand out you want to make note of? And then I specifically want us to get into some of the guys we saw play during garbage time that got me pretty excited for the future as well, too. So, Clayton, I'll start with you, man. Anything from this game that you liked and that you're excited to see us continue throughout the rest of the year?
Yeah, I didn't actually get to watch the game. I was driving to Lubbock, so I'll leave the specific takeaways in terms of like how the team actually looked to y'all. But in general, obviously, none of us would say that UNT is like a really good team or anything, but this is how you're supposed to play against bad teams. So it was good to see us like go out there and actually handle business. Barron was super efficient. Taj, really good game. And I think we touched on this in the group message, but we kind of get tired of running the RPOs so much. But UNT was biting on them every time. And I don't expect, that to continue in Big 12 play for the defenses to fall for it so hard. But with a running back like Taj out there, hopefully we can expect the linebackers to bite on those and can like hang our hat on offense on the RPO game. So it was good to see that work for sure.
Yeah, Conrad.
Yeah, I didn't actually get to watch the game live either. I listened to a bit of it. I was in Norman, Oklahoma. We can touch on that later. Have some thoughts from the OU Tulane game, and more so about their food selection that they have there at whatever their stadium is named. I was pleasantly surprised looking back at some clips and some highlights and looking at the box score as well, with how seemingly well you executed. Obviously, the RPO game worked for you. Taj did really well, but also what stood out the most to me was just the dispersion upon receptions and yards at the receiver position and tight end position. It seemed like you had, I think, 12 to 13 guys get a catch. That's just really impressive, and it felt like you executed really, really well on both sides of the ball, which only means that you actually did something well in practice this week and fixed something. So that was my initial reaction. And if you come out, I think this game showed that if you come out and you play the way you can, and you execute and you stay disciplined, and you have number 28 back there next to Barron, you're gonna do what you want to do. It's not that you cannot execute. You showed to last Saturday you can, and so if you just continue doing this and you continue getting better, you can accomplish the goals that you set for yourself. The first 2 games you just shot yourself in the foot, and this game you actually played up to your potential and what you can do, and you're only going to get more healthy as the season goes on. So those are just my initial thoughts, but I'm really optimistic because you finally did what we thought you could do.
Z.
Yeah, I have several thoughts. I know we'll probably talk offense and defense specifically, but just overall, I thought there were some things that we talked about on Wednesday that I was excited to see. The procedural penalties were way down. You had 2 of them happen with Cameron Brown on the same drive, and I kind of don't even really count those as far as like forward looking. I'm actually one good offensive game away from becoming a Zach Kitley apologist. Your RPO motion, it was working extremely well. Those linebackers were in hell. It was when they bit on the run, he popped it right over the top to the tight end. You were doing the swing passes. Like the blocking scheme was really impressive. I do think that our run game has some problems. We can't just line up and say, hey, we're going to beat you one-on-one and just run for 3 yards every time. We can't do that. We kind of have to pull and pop and pin and do all of those things. But Kitley's been really creative about getting the tight ends and even the 2 running back sets that we rolled out. We haven't done that yet, and I thought that was a really neat twist. There was actually a guy on Twitter that calls out a lot of really neat plays, and he called out the Taj 4th down conversion where you were in the pistol and you had the 2 split backs and they went across from each other. And it was a perfect play. Taj could have gone for 100. So that was really, really neat to see. Just some of your creative concepts working well. And then the scheme setting up other plays. You saw that we ran counter really heavily and really effectively in the first quarter. And then when their linebackers were really sliding down on it, we were just nailing them over the top. They couldn't do anything. We could have scored 100 if we wanted to. That's how well your system and your scheme was working. So that was the most impressive thing to me. Brennan, what did you think?
Yeah, I think what we talked about some in the pregame show was just coming out with a sense of pride, having energy, showing that you do as a team still care about the season, that you're believing in each other and yourself. You have a chance to go out home and prove that. And just seeing that done quickly. I mean, 35 points in the second quarter, was just something at 3 turnovers, a pick 6, just flying around, creating havoc. And then offensively, Z, everything you said was true too. And I thought Barron looked really sharp and in control. He stayed patient. He made solid throws. I don't think he really missed anything. There wasn't really anything to miss. I mean, he had a beautiful throw to Kool-aid down the sideline for a touchdown, and a great slant route to Josh Kelly as well too. That had a lot of zip on it too, which is nice to see because that showcases his arm. Seems to be fine as well. So nothing into this game that I think we need to. I know the Kool-Aid factory is up and running again, but nothing that I want to overly get excited about, in particular with the starting lineup. I mean, you only play a half. It is UNT. From start to finish, you showed that you were a better team and had better athletes, and pretty much just quite frankly, across the board, you were in a different league than them, which was what you're supposed to do. But overall, I just really enjoyed the fact that the game was fun. It looked like the team was having fun. Yep. They were focused, and they came out ready to go. And that's what we did not see the first 2 games of the year. And hopefully we'll see that trend continue as we get 2 more weeks at home as well. So.
And let me say this too. We were critical of our coaching staff after the first 2 weeks. And I think rightfully so. But after yesterday, we do have to give them a pat on the back, some kudos, because they did everything. They prepared your team wonderfully. The team looked ready to go. I mentioned on the pregame show that I thought that 11 a.m. may help you just because you don't have to sit around all day. And it looked like they came out ready to go. And I think that the coaches had a large portion to do with that just because of they don't want to lose. They don't want to play the way you did. And I think they do have the power and the authority to change some things and game plan better. And I think they did that in a wonderful way. Zach Kitley, like Zyler said, did a fantastic job. Tim DeRuyter did a great job as well. I mean, Chandler Morris before that game was top 5 in the country in passing. I'm not sure what he is as of today, but he's not a terrible quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. And you shut him down. You forced him into some turnovers, like we said, that would happen. But just want to say that your coaches deserve a ton of credit after bouncing back from the first 2 weeks of below average play of what you'd like to see from your team.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're looking at, you had 3 interceptions specifically. You only gave up
Mhm.
218 yards passing and 135 yards rushing. So it wasn't like, even though in the second half they started getting a little more just movement, but you weren't really playing to the
Yeah.
extreme level at that point. You did shut them down. I mean, the defense was impressive, and I know, uh, just like Conrad and Zyler, both of you said, but it's not like we don't like Zach Kittley. We like Zach Kittley. We just want to see more of the offense. We're not here to slander any of our coaches yet. But but we're 3 games in. But yeah, it did look a lot smoother, I think. And I don't know
Mm.
if that's something we can take stock in, but there didn't seem to be a lot of clutter. There wasn't anything crazy. It was consistent. And the one key is probably Taj Brooks. I mean, in my opinion, I do think
Yeah.
that he is that security blanket where Barron probably feels a level of confidence, the receivers, the offensive linemen, knowing that you have him in the backfield, I think just calms everybody down. And
Mhm.
hopefully he stays healthy the rest of the year, because if your offense can play that consistent, you can win games in the Big 12. There's nobody on your schedule that is going to completely shut you down outside of Iowa State. I'm not thinking of any defense, at least, that's out there that could stop you in the skill players that you have. So, interest I'm excited, man. I mean, you get 2 more opportunities. We'll get into this on next episode, but you get Arizona State and Cincy at home, and you do what you're supposed to do there, and all of a sudden this season looks a lot different heading into October. So,
Yeah, and I'll talk a little bit, maybe a bit more pessimistically on the defense later. But if you take out their last 2 drives and then their one kind of fluky screenplay, you gave up like 130 yards all day. So if you take out the backup reps and then their one, screenplay that did happen, I mean, it counts. You gave up a 75-yard touchdown pass, but if you take those 3 drives out, it was they were getting absolutely nothing consistently on you. So that was good to see.
yeah. Clayton, does this put more excitement into you going into the next couple of weeks, or are you still very much like, hey, let's chill, like it was UNT, let me see it against a couple Big 12 opponents?
I mean, yeah, I still have my hesitations as far as like going all the way back to what I thought this team was preseason, but it definitely makes you feel better about the next 2 weeks, especially like with the Washington State game factored in. I think if we had been in a close game with UNT, and then Washington State had gone and lost to Washington, then that would be pretty dim as far as your outlook on the rest of the season. I feel like it would be pretty much closed and shut that you're not that great of a team, and we still may not be. But I was also wondering, I don't know how y'all feel, but like, would y'all feel very different about this team if we had beaten ACU by like 24 and then lost to Washington State and then had yesterday? Because I feel like it wouldn't really change my opinion. Like, I still want to see it against Big 12.
I think maybe I'd have more confidence in the defense. I still think I'm wary of how good that unit actually is, but I think I'm probably in your boat. Overall, I don't think it would change my opinion too much.
Yeah, it wouldn't change much for me. The one thing that I do like about, if there's anything I like about the way your season's gone so far, is that you played your best game the last game you played going into Big 12 play, and so it showed you might have learned something from weeks 1 and week 2, which that's encouraging, because it does seem like there's at least an upward trajectory. I'm not throwing out ACU or Washington State because of yesterday. I mean, it was North Texas, so I'm not. But to actually do what we expected you to do is something you didn't do in week 1 or 2. So there's just a positive aspect on that, and we got to sell some Kool-aid. So I got to be positive on this podcast.
Yeah, that's a good question, Clay. I feel like the ACU game was more of a shell-shocking moment, at least for me, and probably the fan base. And then Washington State kind of doubled down on that. You're like, okay,
Mhm.
we almost lost ACU, and then you just go get blown out against Washington State. It just felt like, man, this team just doesn't look good at all. And
Mhm.
and I don't think that's necessarily the case. And so, yeah, if we would have beat ACU like 63-31 and then had the Washington State game, I do think I'd feel still a little better, because I can just throw out the Washington State game as a road game night. You're not ready to go.
Mhm.
But the fact that you had to watch ACU almost beat you concerned me a little more about this team.
Yeah. I
But
feel like for me, it would have definitely changed how I thought going into the Washington State game. Like, we would have been way more confident, and then to see us lose like that would have been really, really
Mhm.
concerning. But yeah, Conrad, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with ACU, you played down to their level more than they played up to you. I just don't think you executed well at all. And so that game to me, if you did play better and then do what you did against Washington State, that just wouldn't have made as much sense. But because you did play like you did against ACU, and then you did play like you did against Washington State, it almost kind of made sense. But if you didn't play that way against ACU and then you went out and played the way you did against Washington State, it really it wouldn't have made sense either. So it's just kind of looking back. I'm not sure still how we feel about this team. I think I'm more optimistic. I think we all are because of yesterday, because I don't think we expected it to be that. I mean, given our predictions, we didn't expect it, but we'll see what happens going forward, because it is still only one game and there's a lot of games left.
Yeah. One question that we asked a couple weeks ago, I want to ask again. It's like, does last year feel worse or this year? And if you're looking at now, you're 2-1 last year. You started 0-2, but you pretty much had lost your quarterback into game 4 for the season early against West Virginia. And Barron, this question might be more tailored towards Barron specifically, but 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, close to 1,000 yards passing. I don't know the last time we had a quarterback do that through 3 games. You know, he is one of the top passers in the nation. So all things considered, this season is off to a much better start than last year in the quarterback room as well too. You know, and I feel like that's something we can at least go into Big 12 play this year feeling comfortable about. Even last year against Wyoming and Oregon, we did not feel comfortable with Tyler Shuck. I mean, everybody after the Oregon game, for the most part, was like, dude, what the hell is Tyler Shuck doing as our quarterback? You know, and so at least after 3 games this year, we can breathe a little bit more of a sigh of relief. Like, all right, we've got a healthy quarterback. We've got good offensive skill players. Like, let's go see what we can do now that the season's officially really starting against Arizona State next Saturday. Do y'all feel that too? Or is it kind of just like no, we're 2-1. We should be 3-0. And like, I don't know who we are.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like, with the quarterback play and the offense as a whole, like, we've seen it be really good for 2 of the 3 games. And last year, I don't think going into, I mean, even we lost the 4th game last year. So even going into like the 5th game of the year, I don't think we had seen either side of the ball play like really well, where like we are thinking, you know, we can hang our hat on either offense or defense if they play like this and be a good team. And I guess this year you have to give the offense credit. Like, they put up 52 and 66. So we have seen it from that side of the ball so far.
It's an interesting thought. Just thinking about this team, I know we're going to know so much more after 2 weeks. Like, you're the 5 worst teams on your schedule or the 5 teams that you start with. And so if you can't find a way to get, you know, at least 3-2, but hopefully 4-1, you're going to know a lot. I think your defense, especially, is this going to be a defense that's consistently giving up 28, 31, 35? Like, what does our offense need to have their A game every single game for us to win? And do we know that going into every single game? Like, we've had seasons like that where offense gives you a B+ game, you're going to lose by, 16, 20. That's just how it goes. They can still play fine. And so I'll be interested to see where these performances at the end of the year rate. Was the UNT kind of the middle mark and we still haven't played super well? Or was that kind of our average in the UNT or the, ACU and Washington State? Those are just really bad games. Were those average games and UNT was our best? Just kind of where our performance ends up absent injury lining up, I think will be interesting to see. Did we see us at our absolute best this past Saturday? And I hope not. I hope that wasn't our best. But how well does that translate? I think is going to be really interesting to monitor.
Yeah, with Barron and Tyler specifically, thinking about last year to this year, I am infinitely more confident in our offense and our quarterback play than I was at any point last year, because even when you had Barron in there, he wasn't even close to healthy. So Barron this year has been a huge bright spot, except for obviously Washington State, and his issues there were well documented here and really throughout the rest of Red Raider Nation. But I think I feel much more confident that he can do for you what you need him to do. If somebody has to go out and throw for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns to give you a chance to win, I'm going to pick Barron 100 times out of 100 to do that in comparison to Tyler. I don't think Tyler has that in him in the Big 12, and he couldn't do that because he couldn't stay healthy. And so maybe he'll do that at Louisville this year, but I feel much better about our offensive stature this year compared to last year, because you do have better skilled players, you have better everything really, except for maybe offensive line, but that's always a fluid position group. So I hope we haven't seen our best in terms of offense either, because I think you can still be more efficient. But I think you did a really good job at least taking steps in that direction that should give your team and should give your quarterback a ton of confidence going into this game next Saturday. Because if you would not have played well yesterday, your team's confidence could have taken a turn for the worst. And you may not, if you play yesterday and you win 31-30 or 31-28, and your offense does not play well and your defense does not play well, there could be a very real situation where you don't win another game this year, which I don't think that's going to happen now. But I think that if you would have lost like that, or you would have lost by double digits yesterday, you definitely could have seen that happening because of how detrimental that would have been to the team's confidence.
Yeah, Conrad,
Fair,
I think that's a
not
good
fair?
point. And I think you're right. Especially as young as this team is, I think momentum and confidence is going to be really important. These aren't guys that have, most of these kids haven't even played 12 Big 12 games. Like half your defense has like 3 starts. And so instilling confidence in them, I think that was a huge, huge, huge deal for them. I think it's going to matter in a lot of our games. And I want to kind of transition into just talking about the offense specifically, but I think we're going to have some variation and some variability with our team's performance. I think this team's probably going to get pretty rattled on the road, especially defensively. I think we've already seen an example of that. Hopefully, as they get older and more mature, it's going to be better. But that was the easiest road environment they're going to face all year. Iowa State's going to be way tougher than that. TCU is going to be way tougher than that. Oklahoma State's probably going to be the toughest place you play. Arizona, we'll kind of end up seeing. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And a couple notes I did have on the offense to kind of transition us there. I thought Barron, like you said, was excellent. His pass to Josh Kelly to give us our first touchdown, I thought was one of the best throws he's had all year. Like how fast he whipped that thing in there. It was great. I mean, he was excellent. I thought he was confident. I thought he made his third and fourth reads. He got out of the pocket when he needed to. His strike to Josh Kelly again on that long third down. It feels like we never convert on third downs whenever we get behind the chains. And to see us do that, I think was probably good for everybody. I thought the offense showed a lot. I'm extremely impressed with Cam Dickey. He's faster than Taj. He's got good vision. He's got good burst. He's going to be a great back for us. And then Jacoby Williams also looked really good. He's faster than all three of them. He's just a little small. But they got him in, and I thought both of them looked better than Cameron Valdez. And nothing really against him, but I think we're going to be fine at the running back spot. I like Cam, and I think he probably deserves to be playing, but those guys look excellent. And then I know we're going to touch on some of the young guys later, but offensively with your starters, I was really impressed. And the pass pro with Dalton Merriman was fine. I thought he did better than Porter does usually. So I was really pleased.
Zyler, overall, how did you feel about offensive line yesterday?
The one thing that I'll say in our run game, we are getting stuffed in the run game way more than we ever did last year, where Taj only had like 4 runs of less than a yard last year, where it was at least going to be a yard. And that's happened to us like 8 to 10 times already. So that concerns me. And I think that's mainly blocking. Taj has saved probably 4 or 5 of them from being that. That's one area where I just think, Wilson is so young at the center position, and so many of your runs, especially short yardage power runs, rely on him. And he's just not big enough yet to really get that push on 320-pound nose tackles. He's just not getting it done yet. And then you're moving and matching positions. You've got a JUCO guy out at left, and you've got Caleb at his third position. You've got Davion Carter, who's 6 foot, like 280. You're not really big on the inside, especially on that right side. So that is concerning. And I will be interested to see what packages we use for our short yardage, our 3rd and 2s, our 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s. I think I would almost guarantee you're going to see 2 to 3 people in the backfield from here on out, just because I don't think they trust them to get some of those power runs. Overall, though, I thought the line looks good. They're good in pass pro. Merriman's good in pass pro, and I've been really impressed with Buchanan. He has not been an issue so far. The talent is obviously the worst that you'll play all year, so we'll see what it looks like against legit D1 guys, but I've been impressed with what Clay's been able to put together with the offensive line.
Yep. Clayton, any offensive thoughts specifically?
I'll touch on the running back specifically that Zyler mentioned. I think we've been looking for like a second running back to be the kind of opposite of Taj, as like a speedster. And where you have Taj, you can hand the ball off like 20 times and be the up the middle like bruiser, and then another change of pace back who you can give 5 to 10 carries a game. I feel like we always wanted Valdez to be that, and he's had some good games, but we've always been missing someone who can, break off a 40, 50-yard run. And I agree with Zyler. I think Dickey and Jacoby Williams can be that in the future, even though they're both young. So that's good to see, because I do feel like we've been missing that ever since we lost Sir Roderick Thompson.
Yeah, Conrad. I guess to kind of segue into this, you got to see a lot of the young guys. I know Hammond's caught our eye a little bit more, but I personally was super impressed with Dickey. Do you feel like he's going to have more of a role in the offense moving forward? Do you think Cameron Valdez will still steal some of those backup running back carries?
It's nothing against Cameron Valdez, but I don't see how you keep Dickey off the field after he looked as good as he did yesterday. He is your future at the position. I think he's going to be really good, like Zyler and Clayton, and you have said. It's nothing against Cameron. It's just Dickey looked that good, and when you've got a guy that's that talented and looks really comfortable out there, it doesn't look like the moment's too big for him at all. I think you just got to give him more opportunities, and we saw what happened when Taj is out. I know Joey wants Taj to get that rushing record. I do too. I think he's going to. I don't think it's really going to be that difficult for him to do so, but you have to keep him healthy. And so if it's only for health reasons that you mix in Dickey a little bit more, I think you need to do that just to keep everything going with Taj, because we saw what happened when Taj misses a game. He's too important to your team, and you do also have to start thinking past Taj as well, because it's Taj time right now, but it's not always going to be Taj time. So Cameron Dickey is the future, and I think you're going to see him continue to get a bigger role. At least I would hope so.
Yeah, and he was talked about a lot during camp. I remember hearing all offseason about Cameron Dickey, the true freshman, and to see him actually kind of show that he is who was being highly talked about throughout the summer and fall camp is really exciting, because there was another 5-star specific receiver. I know Dickey wasn't a 5-star, and Micah Hudson, that we all thought was going to steal the freshman spotlight for this team. And it looks to be like Cameron Dickey has taken that and is literally running with it. Not to say Hudson won't come on somewhat, but the receiver room is obviously a little deeper. But it's great to see him shining how he is 3 games in for sure. Yeah. And then we got another freshman guy of the future potentially that came out and threw some passes where Zyler, you sent a text today. You were like, dude, like Will Hammond, you sent a replay of his pass to Conyers where he just zipped it in. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't look like Jake Strong throwing the football, and that it's like, this is a true freshman.
Hopefully Jake Strong doesn't listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Well,
if Will Hammond would have played against BYU last year, we would have won that game. As a senior in high school, we would have won that game if Will Hammond played. Case closed.
And nothing against Jake, man. I played a hole with him at the Rawls, actually. Really nice kid. But doesn't mean he's gonna win football games for you. But he gosh, man. I mean, Hammond's when he made that pass to Hudson too, you're like,
oh yeah,
like 2026 just like shined bright, like my eyes. And I'm like, goodness, that looks good. And then to see Dickey, and it's like, if these guys can stay, if we can put up enough NIL money to keep these 3 cats through the next couple of years, you've got some exciting talent on offense, man. And I know they were playing garbage time against UNT, but garbage time or not, the throws that Hammond was making were fire, and it is cool. What were y'all's thoughts on that? And should I temper my expectations, or were you guys watching this too? Like, wow, that 18-year-old kid can sling it.
Dude, he looks excellent. I know it's UNT, and not to be lost in that, I don't know if y'all saw our true freshman 4-star left tackle actually made an appearance in this game, and he looked good. He looks huge. Jacob Ponton, and then Holton Hendricks also played. So you had your line of the future out there. You had your running. It's like all the hope and like it was incredible. Hammond was also really impressive in the pocket. He had that one play. I mean, it was only like a 3-yard game, but where he stepped up, avoided a defender, and then avoided another one and threw the check down to Dickey for like a 3-yard game when it should have been a 7-yard loss. And that was really impressive. He knew exactly where that ball needed to be if he evaded. And I was really impressed with that. Also, he hyper targets our 5-star, and that's really fun too. So it was fun to see him out there. And he can run. I mean, the first play he had, it's like he's athletic. He looks He's much more athletic than Barron is, as far as like a running perspective. Barron on his RPO, I thought he was going to get tackled with like an 8-yard head start.
He looks so slow.
He did look so slow, but he got it done, and that was the right read. Good job, Barron. But yeah, Hammond's going to be a weapon with his legs too. I know Tech fans are probably a little scarred from running quarterbacks, but in some of those situations, 3rd and long, 3rd and 8, those are really it's a really good weapon to have in your backfield as a QB that can run and extend the play. And I think Hammond will offer you that. You're just probably not going to get to see it until next year or in 2026.
Were all 3 of Micah's catches from Hammond, or did he catch any from Barron?
He had one from Barron, I think, in the second quarter, right?
Yeah.
It was like a screen pass or something. It was not.
Yeah,
it didn't work.
It didn't do anything.
Yeah.
A couple other things on the youth movement. I follow Tech Hoops guy on Twitter, and he always has a lot of really interesting stuff. But he was talking about this will be the youngest defense that McGuire ever fields. This defense is on average 2.25 years younger than what you've rolled out in the past 2 seasons. That is really young. I didn't realize it was that bad. They're going to improve over the year, but this should be the worst defense you ever roll out in the McGuire era. And I was impressed, especially that last drive that they had at the game where they actually got a stop at the end. Dingle came in. He's extremely fast. Like, you're just seeing some of those recruits that they've brought in that are 18 and 19 years old, but they're flashing at this level. And I'm kind of all the way back in on the Joey train. I can just see where it's going, even if it's maybe not going to yield like a 10-win, a 9-win, or an 8-win season this year. I can see the vision, and if they can keep these guys, I think you're going to win a lot of games in the future.
Yeah, I think when the Joey era comes to an end in 2064, we're going to be really happy with the product that was on the field for most of it. I agree with Zyler about the Joey era. I am all back in on him. You can't help but love the guy. I mean, he's awesome. We've been critical. Sure, he's been critical of himself, but I think we're all, well, I'll speak for myself. I'm all back in. I think he's going to be successful. Want to see him continue to improve, but I think it's good. Just a note on Hammond. You can tell when a quarterback has it. You can tell. It's obvious. You can just see it with your eyes. It was the same way with Johnny Manziel at Texas A&M. You saw him play against Florida, and you said, okay, wow, that guy has something special. Will Hammond is not Johnny Manziel in a lot of different ways. But you can tell that guy has something different. He's got a pop in his arm. He seems like he's comfortable, which that's a big thing for young quarterbacks, getting thrown into that situation and just being comfortable. Now it was UNT, but it seemed like he belonged there. It felt like a little bit like Barron did in 2022 when he came in against Oklahoma State. Obviously, we didn't see that much of Hammond, but there are similarities between seeing Hammond and seeing Barron, and seeing what they can be if everything works out for both of them. So loved seeing Hammond out there. Think he does have a really, really bright future for you here at Texas Tech.
If Barron were to go down, is Hammond starting?
I am 99% sure Hammond would be the quarterback we roll out.
We will riot if he doesn't.
I think he
Cam
should
Brown
be.
Yeah. Go ahead, Clayton.
I was just going to say, even if Cam Brown is like slightly better right now, I think you have to give it to the freshman who you see like being your future starter. I wouldn't want to roll with Cam Brown and then have him. I don't know if Cam Brown's a senior or not, but obviously
like a sophomore
in the future.
Well, and I wouldn't say Cam Brown's better than him.
He didn't look better.
No, he didn't at all.
I saw
I will say there's one thing. They may try to preserve his red shirt. So, I mean, he's played one game now, so he gets 3 freebies. So, I mean, if we get to game 9 and Barron gets hurt, I think undoubtedly Hammond plays, but they may want to preserve his red shirt. That would be the one reason I think Cam Brown would play more. That would be the only reason I think at this point.
Conrad, what were you going to say?
Yeah. I don't think you see Hammond in any special packages like you've seen Brown just because of the red shirt situation. I saw a picture on Twitter of Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe, and the caption was Baron Morton and Will Hammond, and I laughed because I don't think that's what we're seeing. But would I be angry if that was the case? Absolutely not. So I just thought that was a funny tweet that somebody put out there. I forget who it was, or I'd give them credit, but I did think that was very funny. So if you listen to this podcast, please like and subscribe, but also know that you sent out a great tweet as well.
Dude, that's funny. Two things on what Conrad said. Was it a Mormon reference like for Johnny Manziel and Will Hammond being the primary difference? And two, if Joey Maguire's tenure ends in 2064, he'll be retiring at the age of 93. So he'd be the oldest. That's like just waving goodbye to Joe Paterno as you pass him as the oldest coach, I think, to ever coach college football.
I mean, why not dream? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why not dream?
Yeah.
It can be 2044. It doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter to me. I want 20 years of success, which I think you can get. In reference to Will Hammond and Johnny Manziel, I think there are a number of differences. Sure, Mormon might be one of them. Maturity level of a 5-year-old for Johnny Manziel and an actual 20-year-old for Will Hammond, even though he's not 20 yet. That's another one. Johnny's a little bit faster. Johnny also liked to have a little bit more fun than I hear Will Hammond does. Will Hammond seems to really just like football and eat and breathe and sleep football. Johnny Manziel did that on Saturdays. Every other day of the week he was doing who knows what. So there were a lot of differences that I was referring to there. You can kind of pick and plug whichever one you want to think about. So.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to clarify because right when you said it, my mind just went there immediately.
Brennan, why would your mind go to that immediately? Like, what would make you think about that?
I don't know. And speaking of BYU, they won today. No, anyways, man, I don't know. It just went there. I can't really explain why it did. But yeah, exciting stuff, man. We got a lot to look forward to with 2 more home games coming up. But gosh, it's just Hammond, Hudson, Dickey. Just put it on a t-shirt. We're ready for it here in a year. But we want this team with the seniors and obviously Barron Beta Jr. to still do really well. So we're not asking for them to take over just yet, but we're looking forward to the day that they do because they all look really freaking good. So, all right, boys. Well, let's get into some news and notes from around the country and specifically around the Big 12 here as we close the show. Wanted to get through. We kind of picked some different games before on our preview show as well. There were some surprises here. I'll go through some of the big ones, but Arizona State, who you play next Saturday in Lubbock, they beat Texas State by 3 on the road in San Marcos, 31-28. UNLV beats Kansas. Clayton, I'll let you touch on that one here in a second because you're the ultimate Kansas hater and Jalen Daniels slanderer here on this podcast. So we'll give you some time there. K-State romps Arizona 31-7. Avery Johnson played pretty well that game too. He kind of looked like the quarterback that torched you last year for 5 touchdowns. The Neil Brown hate, Clayton. I mean, honestly, Clayton's the ultimate slander. He's like Neil Brown gone. I think what'd you say? What'd you say this weekend?
I said Neil Brown hot seat coming soon. Which to clarify, I'm not even a Neil Brown hater. I'm definitely a Kansas hater, but I just don't think Neil Brown is very good.
Yeah. Well, we'll give you both of those.
Okay.
Yeah. So Pitt beats West Virginia 38-34. So West Virginia falls to 1-2. UCF beats TCU, comes back on the road 35-34 down in Fort Worth, and Deion Sanders had his boys ready to go against Colorado State 28-9. Colorado is now 2-1 on the season. And then Will Hammond's brotherhood, the BYU Cougars, they beat our boys, the Wyoming Cowboys, 34-14 to improve to 3-0. So good for BYU. Anytime you can beat Wyoming, that's a great win. You beat Wyoming, who's now 0-3 this year, but that's a great win nonetheless. So anything in particular stand out to y'all? Z, I'll go to you first, then I'll let Clayton and Conrad talk about Kansas and TCU specifically. But anything within these games that stood out to you?
Yeah, I'm a huge Andy Kotelnicki fan. He was the Kansas OC every year that Lance Leipold's been a coach. Their offense clearly is not as good. One thing I will say for Kansas, I mean, I love being a Kansas hater, but their post-game win expectancy for the Illinois game was 58%. The post-game win expectancy against UNLV was 87%. So a bit fluky that they did end up losing both of those games. So maybe something, if you see some positive regression for Kansas moving forward, that's something that you may notice there, or something that we may look back on and say, oh, they probably were better than their record indicated. The other thing, Arizona, man, kind of the team that I had circled as a potential, man, you may really not be that good. They got pounded by Kansas State. It was not a conference game, but they did not look good. And especially the offense. Like, I get if the defense doesn't look good, you lost so many guys, but to only put up 7 on Kansas State was really disappointing. I expect, at least 20 plus. That game seems much more winnable on the road. That one to me seems the most winnable now, whereas in the beginning I thought it might have been TCU. Other really thoughts, I didn't watch much of the UCF TCU game. I think you guys were keyed in a little bit more on that one. I'll always laugh when Sonny Dykes loses, though, so that was a fun result for me. There's a, kind of just a Big 12 thought that I had. I was just looking at SP Plus rankings. There is a massive cluster of Big 12 teams. You got Baylor at 44th, Arizona at 45th, and then you've got West Virginia at 54th, us at 55th, and then you have Arizona State at 59th, and then Cincinnati's at 63rd. All of those teams are separated by basically 4 points. So you're going to see a ton of games, just like the UCF TCU game. That's kind of just what you're going to expect with all of those middle tier Big 12 teams. Who ends up getting lucky in some of those one score games? Hopefully us, but I won't be surprised, kind of either way.
All right, Clayton, take the Kansas game. Give us a Kansas slander.
Well, as y'all know, I've been so down on Kansas this year, but I cannot say that I expected them to lose to UNLV at home. That's an embarrassing loss. That is a terrible loss. And Leipold's wife is tweeting at fans now. Yep. Their fans are tweeting at Jalen Daniels. They hate him. I think, honestly, things could unravel pretty quick if they are not care. I don't know who they have on their schedule next.
They have an easy Big 12 schedule, I thought.
You're probably right.
I'll find it. I think.
Or go ahead, C.
No. Clayton, continue. I think theirs is easy, though.
Clay, I was going to say. Sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, have we tweeted at Lance Leipold's wife yet?
Not yet. I'll get on that right after we record. You should come on the pod and talk about Kansas fans.
Yeah, Kelly, come on.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Clay. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I can't believe so many people were buying the Kansas hype this offseason. They weren't that good last year, and then they just brought everyone back, which I feel like people fall for that in every sport every year. You're a mid team, you bring everyone back, and people expect them all to take crazy leaps forward, and it never happens. Like, never.
Dude, it's the absolute worst in basketball. You'll have a very mid team get hot for like 3 games. They'll make the Sweet 16, and they'll be like preseason top 20. It's the easiest bet. It's the easiest team to fade preseason in the world. It's guaranteed money every time.
100%. But
and
Conrad, I'll let you talk about. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
Okay, Conrad, go ahead at TCU. I was going to say, what are the odds Neil Brown gets fired at the end of the year if you had to?
80%.
Dude, I think it's pretty high. Their next 5 games are so tough. If I can pull it up real fast.
And that extension they gave him was kind of a fake extension. Like, it wasn't really.
It was kind of just to put the rumors to bed, I feel like.
Oh, they have Kansas versus West Virginia next week, 11 a.m. That is a oof.
That's a pillow.
Somebody leaves that game. Yeah,
we're live streaming it.
But yeah, West Virginia, real quick, they have Kansas next week. Then they got Oklahoma State, Iowa State at home, Kansas State at home, at Arizona. That's tough.
Oof. Yeah, that is tough.
And they have to come to Lubbock on November 30th. So
exactly.
Right. All right, Conrad.
I didn't
Go ahead, Zyler.
Garrett Green, I didn't realize how short he was. You just read these guys' stats all year and you don't watch anything about him. And then you see him on TV and you're like, oh my gosh, he's tiny.
He's tiny. Yeah.
He is so short. Anyway, that's just my one thought.
How short is he?
I think he's 5'11".
Oh, what I would give.
Yeah, I mean, I'm yelling at a guy that's my height.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
5'11".
Yeah, and 5 inches taller than me. But whatever. Conrad, what's TCU looking like, man?
Man, I've been on record as not being a very big TCU or Baylor supporter. Actually, rooting against them quite heavily in every sport. But what I did notice on Saturday is that they looked like the team that they had showed the first few weeks of the season. They were up big. I think it may have been 28-7. And then they lose the game 35-34. Sonny Dykes, Texas Tech graduate, is their head coach. He gave $1 million to TCU, so they're never going to fire him, which is interesting. No, they may fire him. But that game was interesting to me because it felt like TCU actually had it. I mean, their fans were leaving. Their fans thought they had it in the bag, and then UCF just plodded along and came right back, stopped their offense. Their offense seemed a little bit lethargic when they had that big lead that they didn't seem like when they were playing to get out on that lead. So that was interesting to me. But TCU losing by 1 point on a field goal at home is interesting to me to see, because I thought they were actually pretty good, and not that they can't be, but they do get really unlucky in one-score games now that it's not 2022, and they're getting super lucky on a national championship run. So that game was interesting to watch for me. I was laughing at the end because I didn't think that UCF was going to do it, but then they went and did it, and now TCU is not the laughing stock of the Big 12, because you still have teams like Kansas and Texas Tech, but you do have a school that you thought was going to be a little bit better than they actually were. So we'll see what happens in the future, but not really sure how they're going to actually do anything in the Big 12 if they can't finish after they have a 21-point lead at home. So those are just my thoughts on TCU after that game, and obviously they could change it up, but that's not a good look for you at home. But UCF is a very, very good team.
Yeah, and
It's absolutely insane that a Sonny Dykes team made the national championship 2 seasons ago.
It's nuts.
I don't know how that happened.
doesn't make sense.
Well, they showed they didn't belong when they got to the national championship.
I mean,
no
okay, I
offense,
will say this. I
but-
defend TCU, though, because they beat Michigan.
Yeah.
I think they showed that they belong, kind of.
That
I think
Georgia
SEC
was
fans.
they would beat a lot of teams that bad that year.
Yeah.
Probably not.
They wouldn't
in the
beat us that
national
bad that year.
championship, But
I'm kidding.
That one always.
That will always be. I guess I'm not. I guess maybe I'm a little salty about having to watch that game, because that game was over after the first 3 minutes, and you want the national championship to actually be entertaining, like all those Clemson Bama games. But that one was just the biggest snoozer of all time, and that would be really embarrassing.
I enjoyed it. I
You
enjoyed
did?
watching
Okay.
TCU get hammered. I really
Okay.
did. It was a fun game for me.
Okay.
Probably the most fun I've had at a national championship in a long time. But
It depends how you look at it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's always funny, though. You'll hear Mississippi State fans be like, TCU did not belong. Look what they did against Georgia. It's like, brother, you would not belong in that game.
Right.
yeah.
What are we talking about here?
I just want to, in the national championship game, I just want to see a good game. That's all I'm asking for. So when Texas Tech plays in
That's
it
very
in 4 years, and we win by 60 against Alabama, you'll have heard it here first that Conrad doesn't like blowouts, but when it's his team, he does. So,
See, but dude, this is kind of what we talk about with Tech specifically too. It's like TCU played a national title game with a former coach, with a Leach disciple, Sonny Dykes, on their team. And, you're like, okay, even when a team goes, it's kind of your rival. I wouldn't put TCU like as a top right, but now I would guess they're probably one of your most hated rivals. I mean, and then your own guys are going and doing it with them. It just drives me nuts. So I'm kind of with Z. I love the fact that Sonny Dykes got his teeth kicked in, because he's not speaking, hey, I hope you suck the rest of your whole career. If you're not in Lubbock and you're in Fort Worth, like, I could care less. So
also, he trashes Tech routinely in recruiting stuff. I know that from a level 1 source. So that you can always just take that and shove it. So,
well, at least we can fill our stadium.
Yeah.
And we're not even that good. They couldn't even fill their stadium during their national championship year.
Yeah.
So, and I will give them credit on this front. I don't know if y'all saw their jerseys on Saturday night, but that black and purple together, that did look really good. I'll give them credit there. That looked good.
I don't know if you must have not seen the pre-recording notes, but it said not allowed to compliment any Big 12 team ever, no matter what. So I think you missed that in all caps, but we'll let it slide, Conrad.
My bad.
Anything
We'll do it again.
Anything nationally you guys want to hit on real quick? FSU's 0-3. That's hilarious.
They're under for the season already hit. It was 9.5 to start the year. So if you bet the under, you already cashed out.
Crazy.
That is crazy.
That is in September. That is wild.
In September.
Yep.
Yeah.
Any other? I mean, really, Georgia almost lost to Kentucky by 1. There wasn't anything crazy. Florida's probably going to fire Billy Napier any week now. It looks like they lost to A&M, but nothing that off the top of my head that was actually like surprising nationally this weekend. Is there?
It was kind of a boring week. I guess Toledo. Yeah. I mean, they railed Mississippi State. Not to pile onto Mississippi State on this episode, but I mean, they got smoked at home by Toledo. It was like 24 points, I think.
That's right. Yeah, tough for Mississippi State, man. I mean, you lose Leach, and then you kind of have to reset your whole program, and you lose Will Rogers. Is now at Washington. I mean, that sucks. Like, I feel bad for them. You know, they were always kind of respectable enough to hang around, and it just looks like that's going to be a long rebuild there. So
it stinks for them. I mean, Dak Prescott went to your school, who's the most overhyped and overpaid NFL quarterback of all time, and you also were unfortunate enough to lose Mike Leach. So that's just really tough few years for Mississippi State.
Tough, man.
So
tough. Yeah,
I do want to make a mention of a player that I thought was absolutely electric. I will not name the school that he attends, but he has 2 uncles that played professional football who were both excellent quarterbacks. And I will say that guy, I won't even say his name. That guy looked incredible. I know it was UTSA, but he was on another planet. I'm just being factual, and he just looked unbelievable. So when that other guy who you almost got leaves, that school that you hate, because we all hate that school, is going to be really good. And it pains me to say that, but I'm just saying what I saw. So
you just proved that you have a crush on him, because we specifically told you before the show not to mention that guy, and you couldn't help it. We made it 55 minutes, and you still found a way to bring him in.
Hey,
I have a theory.
Let me tell
Conrad, if it's like a 6'2" to 6'4" white quarterback, Conrad will love you until the day. Like, I remember him talking to me about Josh Rosen one year. Yeah. It's just like, Zeke, you got to watch this guy. You got to watch this guy. I was like, dude, Josh Rosen is stinky.
Yeah.
He's super stinky.
He was good at UCLA.
He was kind of good at UCLA.
Hey, I don't know what the white part has to do with it. I just like good players that play well. I don't care what how much melanin you got or what you don't have. I'm pro fun quarterbacks to watch. That's what I am.
If I will say to throw in one African American quarterback that Conrad's been obsessed with since he probably was in 8th grade in the Allen school district system. Like, this dude is the biggest.
He does love Kyler.
Yeah, he loves Kyler. You know, so hey, and I don't, dude, and Kyler's also super mid. We're not even going to talk about what he did on Sunday. It doesn't matter. So look at this.
Boy, I don't know what highlights you're watching, but that dude looked like that dude, as much as it pains me to say, looked better than Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow today.
Wow. Okay, we're gonna just move on from this real quick. We're just gonna move on. Yeah. Okay. Well, Conrad, before we move on to tech trivia to close out the show, you wanted to show us something from your weekend in Norman. As we, you had to go back to Kyler Murray's shrine there at OU and probably just stared at his Heisman Trophy. I don't know what you were doing, but no, you had family there. We'll let it slide. You went out to Norman for a game, but there's something that you witnessed in the stadium that was kind of interesting. What is it? You want to pull it up?
Yeah. So we'll start with this. So I did go to Norman this weekend. I did wear an OU shirt as well. That is a selfie I took with a hot dog. Branding was kind of mid, but it is what it is. But what I really wanted to talk to you guys about is this. Do y'all see this? Do y'all have any clue what this is? Because I sure don't. These are what those people in Norman, Oklahoma, those Sooners, call nachos. That is not a nacho.
Tough.
A nacho
that is so tough.
Is when you have fake cheese lathered over stale chips. That is a taco with no tortilla. That it looked terrible. It was not
That's a great
appetizing
description.
at all. That is not a nacho. So, Oklahoma Sooners, get your titles right in terms of what this food is and what it's not, because just not a fan of that at all. So, just wanted to show the world how bad the food is at the University of Oklahoma.
I can
that just was
imagine
not good.
Conrad's rage at paying for that as soon as he saw them put like shredded lettuce on his nachos. He's just so angry that he has to pay for it.
You know, also what I need to mention is every hot dog purchased at the game went towards the OU NIL fund, and I unfortunately contributed $4 to that. And so I just want to apologize publicly to all Red Raiders everywhere that I did contribute to the Oklahoma NIL fund. So, and they were not very good either. So we'll see.
Okay,
Next
so
5-star
Just
to
wanted to
OU.
share that with you guys.
yeah,
What'd you say,
Conrad
Clayton?
Mills.
Conrad-
I said next 5-star to OU. You guys can thank Conrad Mills for that.
They won't be getting a single 5-star after Tennessee does what they're about to do on Saturday night.
Oh, I hope so. Okay, so let me just checklist this down really quick. We've got Conrad Mills brings up Arch Manning on the podcast. Conrad Mills wears an OU. Conrad Mills wears an OU polo to an OU football game, donates to NIL fund, and has a massive obsession with Kyler Murphy. I as I'm doing this, I'm questioning Conrad's loyalty. What happened to the Pi Phi Dad polo you were wearing?
Dude.
That is the polo that I was referring to that I was wearing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's okay then.
Oh,
That's
yeah, that's
okay
fine.
then.
Yeah. That's what I hope
Bro,
I made
it's
y'all laugh when I sent you that mirror pic on Saturday morning.
It looks great. In fact, will you if you're not able to watch this podcast, we'll tweet out or share it to our story the picture of the nachos. And
No, we won't. No, we won't.
tag OU football, but they were super. Those nachos
No, we
were
won't.
super janky, dude. Yeah, almost no cheese on those things if you couldn't see the pictures. So, all right, Z, we'll close this out with tech trivia, man. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, this will be a quick one. I was really hoping that I was going to be able to attend the UNT game, but went to a wedding instead. 11 a.m. kickoff at the Jones. It felt like when we were students, that's all that we had. But it has been a while since our last 11 a.m. home kickoff. Do any of you know the last game that we played at 11 a.m. in Jones AT&T?
Ooh, that's tough.
I will say this. There was something very memorable that happened after this game.
Okay, I might have a guess then.
I may have given it away.
Kansas State in 2021.
That is correct.
Let's
That was
go.
the last time you had an 11 a.m. home kickoff game. You'd gone almost 2 years. Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Why is
So,
What
yeah,
happened after the game?
Matt Wells got fired.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. I
Dude.
cried.
I mean, truly, the Joey getting here was such a if Devin Drew doesn't commit that stupid face mask penalty on like 3rd and 30, Matt Wells probably goes another year.
Yeah, we were up 17-3. We had him in 3rd and 30 in like the second quarter.
Chris Kleeman was on the hot seat. Like if he lost that game, there was a chance that there were like serious questions about his job security.
Mm-hmm.
And then they did what they did and won a Big 12 title.
Well, because you would have been 6-2 if I remember correctly had you won that game.
Yep.
That in 2021 would have been very good.
Yeah.
Joel Klatt went on that whole rant about how we should be embarrassed for firing Matt Wells because we didn't give him a chance to beat OU or Texas. I was like, brother, let me tell you, we would not have beat either of those teams. You do not have to worry about that.
I watched Matt Wells trot out Jackson Tyner, and I was like, this is never going to result in a win.
Wow, that's a great question, man. Good for Tech for trying to build games after 11 a.m. 2:30 starts. I'm all for nighttime at the Jones. Nothing better in the country, especially with our red light show and drone. That drone show, we even talked about.
The drone
that,
show
man.
is sweet.
That was awesome against ACU. So, well, awesome, boys. That was a lot of fun. Way more exciting and fulfilling a lot more smiles on this episode than last Monday's episode. That's for sure. So, anything else before? What do we got, Conrad, to discuss on the Kool-aid? Are we going to go through the process on how Sun Devil sangria is made, or what are we talking about on what can you expect from the Kool-Aid factory on Thursday?
No, you cannot. We're not going to talk about the process of any of our recipes because those are all in-house. You have to be on the show to be included in that process. So that is all in-house. If you have any suggestions for us, you can comment, like, and subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook. We are there for you. We were kind of active on Saturday, posting some stories. So for all your fun entertainment throughout the week outside of this podcast, make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook, and all the other social media channels. So you cannot expect anything more to be revealed on the Kool-Aid, though. We may have another update on Wednesday, but for now, just make sure you get your orders in online.
There you go. Z, Clayton, any final thoughts?
Nope. Looking forward to
Excited
Saturday.
see us. Yeah.
There
I was
you
about to say
go.
the same thing. Excited
Well-
to see us against a real team.
Oh, really?
Other than Washington State.
Yeah. Well, the
Zyler,
season.
will you be there on Saturday?
I think I'm trying to be there Saturday. I'm gonna take
Okay.
the daughter, and I think we're gonna try to stay the whole game.
I'll be there.
Last
on
time I
Saturday
was
as
at
well.
a game. Oh, you're gonna be there?
Yeah.
Let's
We
go.
should do a halftime show.
That would be hilarious.
You
Y'all
guys
should go see Shaq.
y'all is
Oh
Shaq
yeah,
gonna be
DJ
there?
Diesel. DJ
Yeah.
Diesel.
Wow. You guys actually should go get together at halftime and post a little quick story on Instagram or something of y'all's thought. That'd be hilarious if y'all like
That would
live
be
from the
so
Jones
funny.
halftime update.
That would be fun.
That'd be a lot of fun. Well, and in each game that we are at home, you can expect the sights and sounds from the Jones too. We like to give our little insight on what was going on inside the stadium while we're there. So that's
Mhm.
awesome, boys. Well, that was a ton of fun. The Red Raiders are back, and the season officially starts on Saturday. I said
Mhm.
anything non-conference now doesn't seem to matter as much with your opportunity with what lies ahead with winning the conference and the playoffs. So September 21st, that's a game one in my mind, and we'll be ready to rock. So that was fun, guys. We'll see you on Thursday, and wreck 'em, and let's go beat Arizona State. So see you guys
Thanks,
Thursday.
Brennan.
Wreck 'em.